Welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. Remember to keep up with the show. All the links are in the description below. Email list, links to do with this show. Today is, I'm pretty excited actually because I have the pleasure of introducing the most glamorous couple in spiritual showbiz. Please welcome April and Jay.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
Oh man, that was awesome.
How are you guys?
How you doing, my brother? Thanks for having us.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for inviting us on your show. We're super grateful and super excited.
Well, it must be weird. I mean, I've had you on my TV watching you do interviews, and I don't think I've ever seen you being interviewed. You probably have been, but it's must be
it's unusual. Usually, it's the other side of the way.
Yeah, it's usually the other side of the coin. You know what I mean? So we'll get our groove on here. It may take us a minute, but we get our groove on. You know?
You're pros. I've got no worries there. I'll just sit back and let you talk. So listen, firstly, how is the great state of Florida today?
You know what? We are so blessed to probably be living, okay, I'm a little biased, but probably one of the best states in all of the country. The weather's beautiful. I mean, we just got back we did a 30-day staycay down in South Florida. So it was like a workcation, staycation. And it's beautiful. It's a great place to live.
No, no. I mean, I told you before. I think I spent quite a bit of time in Sarasota, and I love that state. And of course, you've got a great governor, and he's not just one of the best states in the world at the moment, of the country. It's one of the best states in the world.
It's
true. You know what was surprising, man, is when we went down to Fort Lauderdale, because it's a metropolitan, bigger city, right? So the first time the whole issues with all that stuff came up, I mean, they were very militant. This time they were just nobody bugged us. Like we were prepared mentally. Okay, well, how are you gonna? Especially April, right? She's like, how am I gonna just respond to this? And like, exactly, that's what it is. And nah, man, they left us all alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it seems like, well, you know,
they're actually finding the businesses if they push us. Like, if us as consumers, they're finding. Yeah, they're finding the businesses if they say, hey,
$5,000.
Yeah, if they ask us questions they shouldn't be asking us. And
how amazing is that?
Yeah,
it's a huge milestone. Yeah, the governor just did that the other last week. Also, they get a $5,000 fine. Any employers for trying to also mandate any type of vaccine or proof of a vaccine. So these are big steps in the right direction.
They're huge.
Continues, and hopefully it's contagious and it'll start spreading. That's
Well, it needs to be. There's probably the only thing that is contagious, because you can't catch the other thing that they tell us we can catch. Anyway, that's another story. We want to keep this video on YouTube. So you guys, how long have you been at this? Because you've been broadcasting Spiritually Raw for quite a few years, right?
Yes, we actually, we originally started the show. It's funny, you lose track of time. So I would say, I don't know, it's probably 10, maybe close to 11 and a half years now. We originally launched the show then. Our background, just real quick, if you're not familiar with it, our background is financial services. We had a big insurance agency and a mortgage company. We were just caught the last probably year of the mortgage run. So that was a great run. And then when it died, it died so fast. I mean, literally you have 15 loans in the hopper, and then the next day you're like, the banks are saying everything is shut down.
Everything's closed. Just like that.
Everything's done.
Yeah.
And that was a huge turning point for us, because we were in the insurance business for about 10 years at that point. And it was a great run. I mean, it was a lot of fun, made a lot of money, met a lot of people, but it just didn't, we were burnt out. It was not spiritually fulfilling. It was fun. But
you went from being Alec Baldwin to Jack Lemmon in Glengarry Glen Ross, like overnight.
Yeah.
When you walked into our office, if you visualize a traditional financial services office, ours was like an ashram. It had Jesus, it had Buddha, it had Krishna, Kuan Yin. It was like all like waterfalls and stuff.
Yeah.
It had all that going on. So that was our calling. So we're like, hey, let's sell this thing, and let's go on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was 08, 09, right?
Which was 08, I think it was like 09.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 09. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had an online skip hire business at that time, and we got walloped, and it was like
fast.
and this is all kind of relating to sunspots. It's related to the spiritual journey. It's related to the awakening. I didn't realize it necessarily back then that but it did. That's when things really started roller coasting for me personally, spiritually, waking up to my own spirituality and everything else. Had you had experiences before that, or was that just a slap in the face and like, oh God, we've got a whole new way of looking at the world coming?
We had, since I've known Jay, which has been 19 years, from the first day really that we met, it was just very spiritual. It was like instant connection. Like how you're always praying for, oh my God, I hope one day I meet this person, and then our eyes are going to lock and then everything's going to just be, roses. It really was like that. And, you had that instant feeling. So from that moment, we started having extraordinary spiritual experiences, one after the other. And prior to meeting Jay, I'd always dabbled in the spiritual realm, and I was always very, what I thought at the time, connected, and but didn't really understand a lot of it.
We went to India, man, twice, and just really went on the search. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It was like, look, there's something there. There's something out there, and you know what? We're gonna go and find it.
Yeah, so you pulled the handbook, right? How do we get more spiritual? For India first. Check. Well, that's, yeah. And what about when you were kids? Were you psychic? Did you have out of body experiences? Did you see ghosts?
I always saw things, but like I would see the shadows, and I would always see like gremlin type things, but of course you think it's your imagination. In my family, that just was like, forget about, we're not even having this discussion. So you just let it go, and then it gets suppressed and suppressed and suppressed. And then, you go through these phases, at least I did, where you start doing mushrooms. I was at I traveled with the Grateful Dead. So I had my experiences with, types of psychedelic drugs, right? And then you start like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see things a little differently. Yeah. And, it starts leading you on the path of expanding your mind and opening your mind really to endless possibilities.
What about you, Jay?
I don't know if I didn't tour with the Dead or anything like cool like that. But, I was always very
ZZ Top.
Yeah, it was ZZ Top. Yeah, the local band at the bar, man. I was the groupie there. But there was just a desire to find something, man. And it was more for me. It was just the connection. As far as any type of like, did I see? I don't think so, man. But it was I will tell you this though. I've always felt a very uncanny intuitive knack. Towards things like I just like a very, very clear knowing. And I think that's been a lot of the driving force throughout my life. That's really guided me and kept me on this, this journey,
So you get together, boom, fireworks go off. You go to India, you smoke a lot of pot on Goan Beach, presumably, visit a few temples. How did you go from them finances to then thinking, right, I know, let's set up a YouTube channel, let's start interviewing people? How did that?
Well, when we had talked about selling the business, and I said to Jay, I'm done, you're done, we're done. I said, okay, Jay, go out and sell it. You don't think you're going to sell an insurance business very quickly. You think it's going to be like a 6-month process. It doesn't happen overnight. And literally like 4 days later, Jay came back in. He's like, well, you got what you want. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's sold. We have to be out next week. They're coming to audit it this week. I'm like, what? This is like 10 years of files and 6 huge filing cabinets. And it was like a major transition. Neither of us were really prepared for it. So that's really what happened. They came in, they did an audit, and they bought the business right away. And then we were out of business. We had no business. And we had no backup plan because we didn't have time to think about it. Right. This was right when the internet was like happening. Facebook was just starting to. All of that. So neither of us had any computer, we didn't have any, other than software for the business, for the insurance business. Well, even like the insurance stuff and the applications for customers were still handwritten. Seriously, it doesn't seem too long ago.
still were handwritten and faxed, right?
Yeah.
So we had to learn the business. So we just were like, hey, we got to find something, but what are we going to do? And
took some time off.
And then again, you really just kind of embraced our spiritual side. And we just started talking to people, and we were like, hey, you know, the best way for us to even know anything is by talking to the people that are doing it. So we're like, let's just talk to people. I think it was your cousin or something that said, hey, why don't you guys put a camera on you? And that camera resulted into a show called Spiritually Raw.
Yeah. Because at the time, when we were going through this transition, even though we had a lot of spiritual experiences, we weren't experts in anything specific that related to the spiritual realm because we were in the financial world. So we figured there's really no better way to learn what were all these questions. We went out on a quest to have it was really like selfish on our part.
Yeah, we did.
We were on a quest to find out these answers that were making us like, what the hell is going on? And that's how the show started. So we figured, you know what? There's something that we could do really well, and that's interview, because we were already used to, you know, we had a sales background and communicating with people. So we figured, let's just start asking a bunch of questions. Had no idea where it was going to go at all. And it caught fire pretty quick.
Well, it's zeitgeist, isn't it? Firstly, and you bring I love watching your shows because they just zip along.
Likewise, thank you. Yours too.
You know, character, charisma, questions, and there's nowhere you won't go, which is great. That's really, really important.
Absolutely. And that from the very beginning, we didn't want to, no offense to anyone, we didn't want it to be airy fairy, because we're not airy fairy, right? We had questions, serious questions that we needed the answers to, and they were going to be raw because, you know, these were deep questions that we were continually rolling through our minds, and it just was not being found in a textbook or a book anywhere. So we figured if we just keep talking and asking and asking and asking and digging, we'll eventually get to some type of an answer. And in the beginning, when we had it 10 years ago, we learned so much. But just to kind of give you an idea of the transition, at the end of every show, I close the show with, together we will be turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. And that was our closing 10 years ago. And even when I wrote it, it felt good, but I didn't understand how in God's name is that ever going to be possible? How are we going to be able to unify this world? So even though we said it and said it and said it, even back then, I couldn't see a path to that direction.
Wait, I know the answer. It's the virus.
What's that? Say it, Lola.
The virus.
Right, exactly. And, yes, and fast forward to today, now I can clearly see exactly how this is all playing out. So that's kind of extraordinary in itself.
And you know what's so cool, man, is like the stuff we were talking about with people 10 years ago is just so normal, regular conversations today, right? But back then it was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Way far out.
This person's a whack job, right? You know what I mean?
That's interesting you say that, because is that because you're only hanging around with people that talk about this stuff, or is it really, you know, are people actually
I personally think it is really, man. I'm seeing I don't want to sound like a cliche, but I'd say it's an energy shift. I mean, you're seeing good, bad, or indifferent stuff's manifesting. I mean, you're seeing like, you know, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe because you are just hanging around with that people, it's just the proverbial, you're absolutely manifesting that reality. So maybe that is what it is, you know.
Well, you know what though, back then, was the first time I'd ever heard of a walk-in. Never heard of anything like that before. Yeah. And then we also met a lot of people that thought they were the incarnation of Jesus. They were in the incarnation of the apostles.
I've met some of them.
Yeah, of Mary Magdalene back then. And like Jay and I would be done the show, we'd be like, oh my God, that's the craziest freaking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I'm like, this is awesome. I want to do this longer, you know?
I'm like, are they really, is there like something wrong with them, or are they on to something, you know? And now we're like, oh, like I get it. You know what I mean? Yes. Okay. I could see how you could, feel that you were an incarnation of
Yeah,
X,
yeah.
Y, or Z.
There's a real possibility that, I mean,
Yeah.
the way, I guess if there's this concept of a matrix or whatever you want to call it, but there's a real possibility that whatever's coming through their mind is really in existence, for them. There's that possibility exists.
Well, I love the fact that you're grounded, right? Because I think that what you've done is create a bridge, and it's the bridge between the woo-woo stuff and, well, we're living here in this world, and let's investigate that. And I think that's a really, really important job that you've done really, really well.
Thank you.
I'm very wary of people that say, I'm one of the 144,000. Okay, so you got to listen to me. Or I download this person, the Ashtar command, you got to listen to me. There's a lot of nonsense out there that we've all had to learn to discern and cut through. Plus, I think you've probably experienced the same as me in the last 18 months, infiltration beyond belief.
Yeah.
Right? What's your experience? That's my experience.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way with you on that. I mean, April goes more down the rabbit hole than I do. As far as like, oh, that sounds great, I'll go. You know what I mean? But for me, I take a look at that. I'm like, hey, I don't know how much of that is just a false sense of security of that, or how much of it is real. But for me, my own personal thing is I just practice. I think it's the safest bet for me is just to connect with me. So my whatever higher power, my other dimensional side of me, but it's just me and Jay. You know what I mean? It's not any at this point in time, or I'm not getting any specific things at this point for me. Like a lot of things I'm working on, Mark, right now, which I got to tell you, this is really cool. And I've been doing this for months now, probably I would say about 4 or 5 months. And I really find this freakishly accurate how it plays out. But I've been going to bed, and instead of just kind of meditating on anything per se, I meditate on my future self. I go and connect with my future self. And it's literally like, okay, buddy, which is me, let's do this. And, let's get out there. And then I wake up literally with a very specific game plan of who to talk to, what the business is going to do. And here's my play. It's not only the idea, but it's the actual operation manual. And I'm asking questions to myself like, okay, well, how did it work out for us? What stumbling blocks do we need to consider? You know what I mean? And I really get pretty clear answers on that. So for me, I mean, that seems to be my acid test is, my own gut on that.
I think a lot of people have that, in between, like what you want to call it, people that are channeling, or they're channeling higher entities or whatever. And I think that's great, but I think it's like a stepping stone, right? To get to channeling or connecting with your higher self. Ultimately, from my perspective, I feel channeling your higher self is the best way to go, because it's a direct connection. There's no middleman, right?
Yeah.
You're going right to the source. You're going right to the top. So it eliminates a lot of confusion, eliminates a lot of, I don't know, Jay, did that sound right? Did that feel right? Something's not, it takes all that out, because you are just going right to, and it also helps you align with your intuition a lot better. So it forces you really to trust your intuition. Yeah. And I think, Mark, that's probably the hardest component of all of this, right? It's the discernment. That is a very difficult element for many people. And we're still constantly every day having to, put the discernment in, stick in the ground, right? So by going to your higher self, it forces you to do that.
Well, that's been my favorite part of the last 10 years is learning what that is and recognizing it. It's about 3 or 4 years ago, I was in a nightclub in Marrakesh, and my body started, it felt like something came into it, and I was dancing and I couldn't stop dancing. And I'm, I'm a bit too old to be dancing the way I was dancing. And I thought, I'm dad dancing at a disco.
Oh, the ecstasy, man.
and I got back to Ireland and saw an energy healer. And I said to him, listen, I don't know if I was possessed by something. He said, that was your higher self. I went, shit, was it? And it's like, there's been lots of incidences like that, where you pick the clues are there for you all the time. And it's so powerful. It's so hard to describe to somebody who's never experienced something like that, because it was totally physical. But listening to your intuition, having discernment about yourself and about everybody that you come across. And let's face it, a lot of us are just meeting online like this. You know, it makes it even harder because you've not got in the room with somebody. You've not got all those other signals that you normally pick up on. And it's for me, it's been a massive gift, actually, having this time to explore more, you know. And so, but it's also showing everybody for who they really are.
Yeah.
Because
we've had this guy,
Yes.
man. He was on our show 10 years ago, and he's on now. He's pretty much as a regular, but he channeled a Adronus, like an entity called Adronus, right? So we bought him back because he basically was breaking up with Adronus, and his awakening on that whole was like, hey, Adronus, or whatever that connection he was feeling, was like, you don't need me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You don't need Adronus. Like, remove Adronus out of the way and go, you know, don't, you know, get past, go collect your $200 kind of thing, right? So even I think you're seeing more of those people that are having and I'm not saying they don't have a connection. You know, personally, I just don't. But is that I think you're going to see more and more of those people, Mark, that are going to be like, you know what? Let me get this kind of it's getting in the way. You know what I mean? I think you might see more and more of that.
And not to say that it was bad or a bad experience while it was happening. And even he'll say about Adronus, it was a great experience, but he was literally a stepping stone to help him get to the next level of ascension.
Yeah.
Of personal ascension. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that all of that's becoming kind of clear to me now, and it's like you move up a level, you go, oh, that will make sense why I went through that shit now and why I met that person, and that there are no bad things really. It's just all part of that process, isn't it?
Pretty much. That's
exactly.
So I've got a question for you. I first heard about 5D, I think it was about 10 years ago, and there was a website I used to read, and I literally used to read it and go, ugh, I just can't see it, can't imagine it, don't understand it. Kept reading it, still going, and now now I'm writing poems about it. So, when did that hit you, and how do you define that, and what's your understanding of that based upon all the research that you've done over the years?
Do you want me to start on that one?
Sure.
5D was not even in my realm of. I had never heard of it before. I mean, I've maybe heard of the dimensions, obviously, but not the specific. Oh, we're here and we're planning on going there. Like you hear about. In the Bible, when people are the rapture and this and that. And now you can understand, oh, maybe that's what they're referring to, like a higher level of ascension, right? But I never really heard the 3D to 5D till we started the show back up again. And that in itself was a lot to wrap the mind around. And you know what I've really have found that works best for me personally? When I stopped putting labels on things.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in 3D now, and I have to do everything I could possibly do to get to 4D so I can get to this 5D that we're all supposed to be, searching for and achieving that, right? When I just realized, and like to give you an example, I realized that we go through 3, 4, and 5 all throughout our day by going to different places. Like sometimes, and like we could be here right now, and then we may go out to lunch somewhere else in a different part of the city. And the energy is totally shifted. So we went from being on the beach where it's absolutely beautiful and happy and everything's lovely. And then you cross the bridge and the energy is different. And I just feel like I just went back into 3D, right? So what I've noticed is it's not for me so much a physical place. It's more of a mindset. And sometimes physically you can feel the energy shifting so it goes up or down. But I've noticed it's more of it. Am I becoming a better person? Am I tuning into a higher love frequency? Am I not being so short and no, it's this way or the only way? So when I'm working more on myself is when I naturally am gradually ascending to higher levels. Whether you want to call it 3, 4, 5, 6, who knows, right? Because I think there's a lot more than people really know about, right? If the universe is as vast, right, and there's multi of that, then who's to say there's only 12 or 17 or however dimensions, right? It's unlimited.
You know what I think, man? I think it's part of this whole matrix concept, and I think a lot of these things or thoughts that go on are there to trip people up and keep them off their game. you know, oh, I'm in 3D, I'm in 5D, I'm in 9D, I'm in 19D, I'm doing that. You know what I mean? I think it's there to throw people off their game. I really do. I think versus like there's so much concentration. Where am I stuck in? I mean, we interview people on this all the time about the different dimensions, and it's fascinating to know. Like, my biggest question is like not so much the concept of it as how the hell did you get the number? You know what I mean? Like, how'd you get who told you 3? Who told you 5? Who told you 7?
There's a big sign as you go past it. That's right.
Like, I'm more curious about that, to be honest with you. But I think a lot of those labels are the things that keep people stuck. You know what I mean? Because then they get too caught up in the I'm in 3. And I think what you said was good. I never heard you phrase it that way, but I think that's good. Like, it's just throughout the day, man. You're just back and forth. It's just life, right? It's just, and you learn, and then you get better at being in a higher vibe is what you do. And then you just learn, you're more aware of it.
And the other thing too, like just to give you an example, like we did mention, we just went to South Florida. And for Jay and I, that's our paradise because it has everything we love: shopping, food, restaurants, great energy, right? So when we get in the car and we know we're heading south, our energy already is starting to elevate, right? So I believe if you're putting yourself in positions and places throughout your day that are making you feel happy and more free, then you're going up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
When you're putting your mind or your body or your state in this fearful, and that weaves in and out throughout your day, right? So now we try to eliminate that or snap out of that very quickly. But when you're putting your mind and your body into a fearful state or a frightened state or an uncertainty, you're going down, down, down again.
This brings up an interesting point. I mean, some of my favorite interviews I've seen you do over the last year or so has been with Gene Decode, right? Now, a lot of that information, like about the DOMs and everything else, is difficult for some people to contain because it's actually mind blowing, right?
Yeah.
And it's how have you coped with that? Because you know, 10 years ago you were just starting out on a journey. Then you start uncovering all this really deep stuff and dark stuff.
Dark.
How have you managed to hold your frequency at the same time as because this is a big question. A lot of people in the spiritual communities that I've come across over the years, they've had major problems with that. It's like, oh, you shouldn't even look at that. It's an inside job. Forget about all of that. And I've always been like, well, if we don't know about that, how can we go through it? How can we work through it?
Well, you know what? I think it's very important to know about it. So like when Gene comes on or other guests like that come on, it's very important for us to be aware of what it is. But when you the way personally, I don't know, we deal with it. I go in very unattached. I really do. And I just get my mindset there. I don't get into, oh, wow, you know, and then it's like, I feel empathy when I know that, hey, I know kind of thing. But for the most part, it's like information. And these are people giving us what their resources are. This is their spirit guiding them. You know, we say this on the show a lot, Mark, is take what you want, throw the rest away, really. And so it's just, and I think we just have to, that's our approach is you have to do it or else you will go crazy.
That's Jay's version.
You'll get very attached to it. She got a very different version of how she does it, for real. But that's my version. I'm like, all right, good. Well, listen, I hope that works out, or I hope it doesn't work out. Whatever the objective is, yours is very different.
Which is why Jay's like more, which is good because if we both went straight down the rabbit hole, we'd be in trouble.
I'm like, come on back, darling. Come on back.
I had a very different experience. Gene taught. I learned stuff from Gene, and my mind it took a long time to even wrap around. And I also went through a very emotional roller coaster with a lot of it at the same time because it just was so heartfelt. So it literally felt like someone was ripping your heart out when you hear about the horrors of what the children had went through. So I had a very different experience. So I went through the emotional roller coaster with it. And that just took time. It took time to understand it, to go through the motions. And then as I went through the motions, going back to what Jay said, okay, I've heard it, I'm processing it, I'm going through it, and now I got to let it go. And then by letting it go, now you can start, okay, what do we need to do to start making things better? What do we need to do to start elevating the planet? What do we personally need to do to start keeping our energy up so we don't go down, because you can go down with that ship very, very, very easily, and it can hold you. I mean, it literally could put shackles on you and hold you by the ankles. And if you're not careful, that can, that does happen. So we're constantly all day long, from the time we get up till the time we go to bed, are always in detox mode.
Yeah.
We're dripping, we're spraying, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're outside.
Cool sprays and stuff you introduced me to, man.
Yeah.
I use those all the time.
Exactly.
This is not Guinness, put it that way.
Yeah, right. No, yeah.
That's what they say.
But like our job is to do this. Our job is to bring on, like, this is our show, right? It's like, you don't hear us just saying like, this is the first time, like, very rarely do we get to share our views personally on things, but really our thing is, hey, let's bring on the experts. Let the people that are blessing us to watch us, if you would, we feel very blessed when they're watching us, is let them at least get what they need out of it. And that's our job. And that's that's how we feel like we're really of service to people, is to bring on the gene decodes, bring on someone. And again, let the people figure out, hey, let me take this, and this is what's going to help me get better in my life. So if we can orchestrate in that and, continually to work on getting better at that, then I think that's our, it feels like that's so far really been our journey.
Which I also think is another matrix trap for people that are always like, oh, it's all love and airy fairy, and all you have to do is bless and forgive and bless and forgive and let it go. I think that's a bunch of shit. I think it's a bunch of BS, because if you don't understand the dark side, and if you don't go down that road, you cannot get to the light. The light is information.
Well, yeah, and you don't know how to defeat it. You know what I mean? You don't know how to defeat the concept of dark if you don't understand the concept of dark.
Right, because the dark is, if the light is knowledge, the dark is ignorance. Right? So you have to understand both sides of that to be able to ascend and enjoy your life. That's the most important thing. Because you know what, Mark, when all this boils down and you say, what's the most important thing in your life? Your happiness. Your happiness, there's nothing in the world more important than your happiness. You could have all the money in the world, and we've seen it. I mean, you could just look at Hollywood, all the tragic horror stories, right? And people that personally that have literally committed suicide or have had massive heart attacks, but they're multimillionaires, and they weren't able to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So until you can have a happy soul and you feel good and you really can say, you know what, I like myself.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just suppressing all that stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's not healthy. Like we did a show about 10 years ago, and it was called Love and Light, Anger and Dark. Because we were like, hey, well, there's got to be the other side to this, right? And you got to understand it. So we bought on people, and here it again, still the same thing. You see a lot of people, they just continually suppress it. We're not saying by any means, hey, go down the dark path and raise your flag. We're simply saying, look, be aware of it so you know how to defeat it, use it in your favor, work it, whatever you got to do, but got to be aware, or else you're going to be
trapped. You can't learn to swim until you go in the deep end.
That's right.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I can ask you, how has it been with, you're in the financial world, and then suddenly you're going on this path, and then all this stuff's been happening more intensely over the last few years. How's it been with friends and family and business associates and all that kind of stuff?
We're pretty much nut jobs.
Yeah, they think we're living.
I think so.
Yeah.
Our family freaked out, man, when we sold this. I mean, we had just a very thriving business, and just they
were not happy. They thought we lost our minds.
What are you thinking? I mean, really a lot of that, right? Yeah. And it was just like really
for a long time.
Looking at you weird, and like almost like looking at you like in a out of pity. Like you just absolutely I feel sorry for you. And I'm like, oh, this is good. This is okay.
This is what we want.
Yes.
Like, no,
Mom, it's gonna be okay. I promise. You just gotta trust me on this
world.
one, right? You know what I mean? But you used to wear ties and you used to wear suits. And I said you gotta trust me on this one. It's gonna be okay, right? And so yeah, it's that. It's like, oh, that's what they're doing. I just don't know how to react. So and you know what? And I realized instead of whatever. Is like pretty much I've had to take for my own sanity to be able to get through it, is not really get too reactive or worry about what they needed to say. As close as they are to me, is not to get too worried about what they're thinking, and just actions speak louder than words for me. You know what I mean? It's like, look, let me just show where I'm at. And one day they're going to see where I'm at, what we're doing, and again, that'll be an action that'll speak louder than words, and let it speak for itself.
You know what?
Otherwise, driving nuts, man.
Yeah. The other thing I've noticed too, two things I'll share. Number one, in the beginning, when we started the second run and we were really going into, again, the 18 months like with you, and you're starting to uncover all this satanic, very, very, very dark stuff, you literally want to go and tell everyone about it. Everyone. And you want to wake everybody up, and you're on a mission. If you even have to shake them and take them upside down and with like a salt and pepper shaker, and you're going to just shake it right out of them. And that backfired.
Yep.
With family, that's a sure way to ruin your family relationships.
Yep.
And when I realized I need to back off and let them either come to it themselves or not at all, which, everybody's on their own different life path. When I started to back off, it made me feel a lot better because I wasn't so like, why aren't you getting this? Right. Which was causing more conflict. And they were like, oh, thank God, she's off her back now. Right. So that was the first thing. Number one, get off your family and friends back. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I've noticed with people that we are the closest with, friends and family, they don't really care what we're doing at all. Like they're not like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you just got
like no one in our town
Roku.
lives. Yeah, we don't.
I'm so happy you just got a Roku app.
They don't.
They're like, whatever. Yeah. They don't even acknowledge it. So I don't, you know what I mean? I don't tell believe it or not, I don't tell my family, my immediate family and my closest friends anything about this because I'm not going to get the reaction like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. They're going to be like, well, that's whatever.
Right. Let me tell you about me.
Yeah, and that's what it really is. Listen, but let me tell you about the guy that I just and my boy and my husband, and then we go right into their story anyway. So it's like I might as well just anyway. So,
well, that's I mean, that's a very similar experience for me, and it's really about now just everybody's on their own path. Allow them to do it. The information's here if you want to come and find it. Because everyone's got access to the same information.
Yeah.
And everybody's making their own choice, and it's choice and consequence time. And there's not
choice and consequence time. That's a great way of putting it. I'm going to use that if you don't mind.
I might steal that, Mark.
Choice and consequence. Write that down.
Well, I think it was when I was on your show, I came out with this idea of spiritual quarantine, and that was the first time.
And I used it. Yes.
Yeah, well, it was the first time I said it when I was on your show, and I use it all the time now because that's the way I really feel that this has been, and that's why it's such a gift, right? Yes. And if anybody, people are watching this and they've lost people and stuff, my heart goes out to you. But we don't die; we're eternal spirits. So it's a perspective shift that is difficult for some people to just understand. But I'm happy now because I'm not shaking people anymore, and I'm trying to just talk about solutions, positive things, health, and and get into that right frequency and staying there and holding the light and manifesting and all of that good stuff that we can all do. And I do think more people are definitely. I feel it's it's coming. It's very, very close. This sort of flip.
Yes.
But I'm not chasing the date. Trying to let go of the date.
That's part of the trap, man.
That's exactly.
That's a trap. Whatever's coming is coming, but that's the trap. We turned our news off after January 6th and have not watched news since.
Oh, January 6th, I think, was the big moment. It was like, ha!
Yeah, right.
And everybody went, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
Right. Now, how do we spin this one, right? Like, how do you spin that? I'm like, whatever. And so we stopped watching the news. And I'm not kidding you, man. We got like the other day, someone called us and said, hey, be careful in Florida. I'm like, about what? You know what I mean? I'm like, we don't even know, like, local, just whatever. I'm I don't even want, man, Mark. I just it's so healthy to disconnect from that.
Well, I'm not going to mention the tsunami because you guys will be fine. I know you will be fine.
Yeah.
Someone sent me an email yesterday about that.
Tsunami.
And I said to Jay, oh, look, we're getting a tsunami.
I'm like, are we now?
It was the first I heard of it.
This is great. This is good to know.
Yeah, exactly. We created. So there's a couple of other things. I mean, you're married, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Officially, like all of the whole thing. I've working in a marriage together. You guys are 24/7, right? How'd you that's not
36-9. It's
not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah. Well, you know, the fortunate part about this was is when we actually met. Okay, so this is the blessing, you know, in our face, in disguise, whatever you want to call it. We actually started out as business professionals first. So it wasn't like, hey, babe, let's do this business together. Let me teach you this business or let me teach you that business. It was none of that. It was like we started out. April owned her own insurance agency. I owned my own, and you know, just through whatever, we merged them together. But we both had our own independent businesses outside of each other. We're both making our own money, so we weren't. Neither one of us were dependent on each other from there. So our lives started out that way and continue. So we're getting better, but we do a pretty good job of staying in each other's out of each other's lane, if you would. We call
that
it, right?
That took a lot of practice.
That took a lot of practice,
years and years of practice. But yeah, I think we have it.
Yeah, we think we got that down. Like, and that's the trick, man. It's like because we are together all day long, right? So it's like a matter of staying out of each other's lane, so you know what the other one does better than you do, and you just let, you know, and don't micromanage. Kind of thing like that, and that's the thing that does take practice.
When you start to cross over into his lane or he crosses into my lane, you know.
Well, you know,
exactly.
Sometimes when I watch you interview people, I'm like, oh, they're gonna fight. Oh no, they're not. They're fine. It's all good. Give each other the space. It's great to watch. It's a powerful dynamic, right? Because if you look at a lot of the successful daytime TV shows and stuff like that, when you have couples, people latch onto that as well. And I think that you get that sense of like you're part of somebody's life, and it's a really powerful thing. And I'm glad you're doing it.
Thank you.
One big question is, and I think we've got this in common because we're both out there online talking about spiritual stuff, and we're all three of us have had business backgrounds, right? And I found it fascinating over the years meeting lots of spiritual people who think that you're not supposed to charge money. I can't charge for healing. I can't charge for this. It's against God and blah, 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 blah. And I've gone, well, if you don't charge money, how are you going to keep doing it? Firstly. Secondly, if you don't get it out there to more people, you're just healing one person at a time. And you know, you might do it 50 years and heal 1,000 people. You could heal 1,000 people in a day if you got yourself out there. And I've always found that like kind of like this over the years.
Big time.
You guys have understood that you started doing it. It had to become a business because it's for your full-time job.
Yes.
And you know, you have to do it. So, and I think there may be a difference between culturally between America and say Europe in those ideologies and how you merge those two things together. I find that fascinating. I find it endlessly fascinating how people who call themselves spiritual say that you can't make money out of something. Where do you guys? What's your experience of that been? You've turned it into it is a business, right? Which enables you to do your job. That's the way I see it, because we're in the system at the moment which requires money. So, what's your take on all of that?
That's a great question. Jay, you could take that one.
So my number one thing is because I get that, man. We get that, especially especially when people started to be aware of us and who we were, and we were out there like, hey, we got a membership subscription site, things like that. Number one, I made a very hard line and rule in the beginning. I absolutely didn't respond to any of it. I didn't acknowledge it. I didn't feel the need to defend it. I didn't feel anything like that because I felt like, hey, you know, the right energy, the right people will understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and then they will attract to us on that. As far as why people say that, man, I just think it's an absolute, you know, it's number one, it's the reality is that I feel like they're not getting their breakthrough. You know what I mean? Like nobody's buying their stuff. Is what I'm saying, you know. So they're just getting like, well, you know, then you shouldn't do it. You know what I mean? And I think really it comes from that lack of that because, listen, it's where we live, man. I mean, we live in the world, and it just happens to say that, hey, you need money, you know what I mean, and you need this for life. It's what it is. I mean, we didn't make the rules. We're just working within the parameters that we got. So number one, I absolutely don't. I don't even acknowledge it. I don't defend it because I don't feel like I feel like we're proud of it. You know, we're living an example. We're trying to do what we can do to set an example and say, look, you know, you can do something, you can make career changes, you can make lifestyle changes, and you can still have a prosperous life and do your thing. And you can do it with your head held up high and really help people along the way, mutually benefit them. And, you know, those will understand it, will gravitate to us. Those that won't will continually do what they do, you know?
You know what else too? I think that's a big fat trap. It's a big fat lie that a bunch of broke, miserable people, number one, bought into from hearing it over and over and over and spread like wildfire, right? Because if you think about it, spirit, God, Jesus, whatever it is that you connect with, your higher self, the last thing in the world that they want is for you to be fat, dumb, and broke.
Yeah.
People that have been ruling this world want you fat, dumb, and broke.
Yeah.
Spirit energy wants you healthy, vibrant, young, energetic, and very prosperous.
Right.
So that mentality has come from suppressed feelings that have come from the people the people that used to,
that's that
the
proverbial
entities that used to
proverbial dark side that we have to understand where it's coming from. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you know how to deal with it. That's
dark energy, because the light wants the exact opposite for us: happy, healthy, wealthy.
Well, I'm taken back to, you know, random conversations over the years. Like when I first read some of David Icke's work, I'd go to my friends and say, "You need to read this because this is really," and they go, "Oh, he's just in it for the money." I'm like, why would he be saying stuff that could get him in court or get him killed? Why would he just be in it for the money? I remember having a chat with somebody a few years ago, and we talked about depopulation. I said they want us dead, and it's on the Georgia Guidestones. And this guy turned around and said, "Well, the world is overpopulated. I think it should be reduced." And I said, "Well, should we start with your family then?" It's like there's just no connection at all.
Yeah, and you know, generally, Mark, those people that are saying that, again, if they had the money and they were making money and they have these things in there, and God bless them, whatever they believe in, that they hope their life goes through. But if they had that, they wouldn't be saying that. They just wouldn't be saying it.
Misery loves
company, man.
So when you're, you know, not feeling well, you're depressed, you feel like you're broke, you want other people to feel the exact same way that you feel.
Thank God it's not just me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not alone. Yeah. And then for others that are on the opposite end of the spectrum, you just want to throw darts and you don't want to wish them well. Like you may be like, "I'm so happy for you on the surface," but inside they're like, "I hope you lose everything in your bank account," right? And that's all that's doing is coming back to you again.
Absolutely.
You're recirculating all of that negative energy. And I think a lot of people don't realize the power of their subconscious thoughts. They may be smiling, "I'm so happy for you" on the outside, but Jesus, God, I hope you lose it all on the inside. Well, that's only going to come right back at you.
Well, I've seen it 1,000 times, and that's why I'm still here. And I think the armor of God, for example, I didn't fully understand that until all this started, because the arrows, they come at you from every direction, especially if you're out there doing this kind of thing. I'm sure most people watching this will already know your channel, but I put links below to
thank
you.
Stuff. You have a different model to anybody else that I've seen sort of doing YouTube videos. You do interviews and then you put part of it out and the rest is behind a paywall. That's your main business model, right?
Correct.
And you've got presumably thousands of subscribers. How do you keep it? I suppose you never really run out of material because there's always something to talk about because there's ever changing.
This is great. This is great time. This is good for business, man. This is great times for business right now. You know, it's like we had a lovely young girl. And, you know, this girl is very believable. I got to tell you something, but she has the embodiment of Cleopatra, and she is well spoken. Very, very confident. I mean, on point, knows her thing, does not stray. You know what I mean? And just, you know, so for her, it's like, so you get so much of that.
I've not seen that. I've not seen that.
Yeah. Yes, it's Kendra.
Kendra,
she's a love. And then
about 5 shows ago,
Aurora. She's then we had, you know, the one who is the birthing of, like, what was the lady that you know, has like 26 hybrid children. These are like normal conversations, Mark. So you know what I mean? Like, you know, every day. It's pretty cool.
It's far more interesting than talking about the football results or, you know, the stock market prices.
I can talk about this all day long.
This stuff keeps you in the job, man.
I love it. You know, not only is it great that it also supports our income. That's a great thing, but it's so intriguing and it's so interesting. And I'm so like, wow, I just want to hear more about this story. It's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just incredible.
You know, it's the show, I will tell you the best, but my favorite thing of this whole what we do, man, it is incredible therapy. It is incredible. I mean, to get to like having this conversation with you, I mean, what a privilege, what a blessing, but to be able to talk that freely.
Oh, it's amazing.
No, man, it's like, wow, you can't, I don't even know how you can even put a price tag on that.
Well,
I'm glad we're not neighbors, because I'd be round all day and you never get any work done.
We'll figure something to do together, I'd imagine.
The other thing too is when you do what you love in life and you do what makes you happy and what fulfills you, the money is secondary. The money literally just like comes from the sky. It comes from every orifice. It comes from places that you didn't even think you could generate income. And then you get another idea. You're like, hey, Jay, well, you know what? I just got this idea for another way to make some money. So the ideas just flow when you do what you love.
Well, I've been teaching business and marketing for about 14 years, right? And one of the analogies I use is from my old days as a pilot. When I learned to fly before I could drive, and I remember my first lesson in a glider, and I was holding on to the stick like this, and my knuckles were all white, and the plane was moving really jerkily, and the instructor was a fat fella, and he was great, old pilot, and he said, "Mark, you need to hold it like this. You need to relax." And it was totally counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And we call that white knuckle syndrome.
Yeah.
You go through life, you're gripping onto something like your job, your pension, even though you hate the job, or you're gripping onto a relationship, even though the relationship isn't working. You've got white knuckle syndrome, and everything, it just doesn't flow. And every time I've made lots of money, for example, it's when I've not really been thinking about it. I've just been in the flow. And it's just about finding that flow and then having the skills to put together that enable you to put yourself in positions where that can happen. And I know you've spent the last 4 or 5 months working on a course teaching people how to do what you do, haven't you?
Yes.
10 years of
it's really been 10 years, Mark.
10 years
putting the course together. I mean, it's been working. Yeah. I mean, it's 10 years of experience.
It really is like so the courses we put together.
Literally, it's taken us 10 years.
It's the secrets to broadcasting riches and secrets to interview riches. So it covers both ends of being in the media, because we're such big fans of, hey, if you've got a voice out there, use the media to raise your vibration. It'll help you. It'll really help you. So even if you feel like you're talking to nobody, it's going to help you because you're talking through it. Personally, I think our experience is like, as we're talking through it, we're manifesting it real time. We're literally writing the future as we go. And as you speak, right? And so it's like we're doing it as we go. So the course really details that process that we went through. What's very cool is that kind of like how you did with yours, is that we actually had a group of people, different people. So it's not just me and April talking and saying, "Oh, this is what we did. Look at us, look at us, look at us." It's really an engagement. Like, hey, let's take everybody through the process, little by little, from A to Z. What to say, how to create those strategic relationships, how to make sure you step in this direction, stay out of this direction. I mean, we methodically walk.
How to create a product even if you don't have one.
How to create a product even if you don't have one.
It's funny when you said about 6 months, and I joked and I said, really, it's been 10 years. And that is the God's honest truth. We've been writing in our minds and on paper and in my notebook and whatever for 10 years. Like, oh, I'll add this to the ebook. I'll add this to the book, right? With the intention always for years to put together a course, but we were never able to snap it together. Like, when I did the ClickFunnels for a year and a half, I mean, I tried everything, but it just wasn't snapping together. And then, I don't know, Jay was like, I think we're ready to do the course. And I'm like, what? I'm like, we're not prepared at all. He's like, we're not going to be prepared. I'm just going to get a panel of people and we're just going to start talking. I'm like, I'm like, Jay, I think you're losing it. I'm like, because
we had the same idea at the same time at 3,000.
Weird, man?
Exactly.
That's not even weird. That's what is serendipitous? How you say serendipitous?
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Synchronicity, monkey nut theory.
Right.
Yeah. But that's what it was. I was like, the only way, again, it was one of those examples.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to make this happen is if we actually talk through it. And so
we didn't have anything planned.
No. Like, let's just talk to people like if we were, consulting with them or
there
whatever.
There was no outlines. There was no cheat sheets. Which is like, for me, I'm the opposite. I like to have notes. I like to have an outline, bullet points. highlights.
Yeah.
And there was none of it. We just turned the computer on, had
recorded,
had the people in place.
Yeah.
And
that was it, man. And then the other one is the so that teaches people how to actually say, let me do this for a gig. Let me make a go at this and see how I can support my family. The other one is the secrets to interview riches, and that's like the author. That's the person that's promoting themselves and going on shows like yourselves, ours, and like, how do you get on that person's show and you give it all you got, and you make sure you hit that interview out of the ballpark every single time. So we wrote it for that, from that perspective also, and had a group of
same thing, different group
of people, and you'll see us role playing with them. What language do they use? I mean, it's very intricate yet very engaging along the way.
Well, I mean, that's a major skill, and I've been really lucky myself that I've got that skill. I don't even know how, but I just remember doing I got invited onto the biggest radio show in the UK about 12 years ago, and I was supposed to be on there for like 1 minute. I was there for 9 minutes.
Wow.
And I try to teach people the value of that, because I dropped my business name in about 3 times. That what that would have cost in advertising is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And first time in history, everybody in the last 20 years, everybody has the ability to get out there, and everybody's got something to say, right? I believe everybody's got something to say, and it doesn't matter if there's competition, because your vibe will attract your tribe, right?
Exactly.
And then what we've all done here is create things that give people the tools to do that and share that experience. And you've put these in. You've relaunched a new store, haven't you? It's Ascended Masters store.
Yeah.
Right?
So then we have so they can get the course at spirituallyraw.live, which you got the link for there, and then they can see it. All they do is they go to the site, they'll scroll down, they'll see courses there, and they can open it. There's a preview section, so not only will they see the previews of little snippets of us conducting it, they'll see a group of testimonials, what other people say about it. Let them get their own vibe, and if they like it from there, they can proceed. And then the Ascended Master store, that's one of the other projects we were working on. And that's a one-of-a-kind, Mark, video directory, where what we do is we bring out what we truly believe are the ascended masters of our lifetime, of today, that are really, they're tapped in, they're tuned in, and they are bringing forth their information to share to make us a better life. So it's not a directory in its traditional sense, where it's like, okay, well, here's a placement, here's an ad. This is a video directory. So it's laid out just like a Netflix, very easy to use. So people will click on courses. You're on there, they'll click on your course, and they'll be able to watch the video about you explaining it, and what the people are saying about it. So everybody gets to, when people go to Ascended Masters, they're going there with the intent to say, I need some help in something. You know what I mean? I need some help in something. Let me click on which video and which category to define what I need, and let me see if I resonate with that person. If I resonate with that person, boom, they click through, and that's it. They take them on that journey, and it's a great, very, very efficient way to connect with people and the right master of your life for that moment.
And it sounds like it's just gonna get bigger and bigger, because
it's already, we haven't even really, we're in a super soft launch, and it's already catching fire.
Yeah, it's like because the whole key is like, well, we looked at it, we're like, hey, well, people could put ads, and we didn't want to do like, okay, well, let's just, put up a post, put up an image with a description. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to really be like, let's do it that. But we wanted to go a step further and say, well, we just want like an interview. Let one of us, meaning myself or April, really, moderate that master, if you would, and really talk to them and really help bring out those questions. So when people go to ascendedmasters.store, they're going to see that, Mark. They're going to just, when they click on that link, they're going to just go see everything there they need to see. They're going to see us engaging with the people, asking the questions, and they're only like 5 to 7 minutes for the most part.
And then there's also like a 2 or 3 minute intro video that explains
the concept. On the books, the sessions, the courses, products, entertainment. We've got a lot of people that are, they have shows and things like that. They're starting to submit their material to us because they want to be on there to, people want to spread their word. And so it's just great.
People are getting sick of Netflix. They're sick of TV. We are the news now. We are the ones. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm seeing it with movies. I'm seeing it with shows. There's a massive transition, and a lot of the people that made the old stuff for the bad guys, they're not going to be around, right? So it's up to us to start making media and we're moving into the attention economy. So it's you know, we're all going to be able to earn a living from what attention we get, and
Yeah.
it has to be full of integrity, because if it isn't, you lose it.
You lose it, and you won't get it. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, and that's the other cool thing about today is like everybody knows we're all finding our soul brothers. We're finding our soul brothers and sisters, our clusters, whatever you want to call it, family, whatever you want to call it. But we're finding each other. We're actually finding each other, and we're just creating with each other. Like we mentioned a couple of times here. Hey, I had that moment at that same. You know, that's just the stuff that's really
And collaborate.
awesome that's happening, man. You know,
it's a time of collaboration.
Yeah.
In business 10 years ago, I'd have been full of like, oh, I can't teach people this stuff because it's my stuff. In fact, I remember I had an investor. I had an investor in my business who was one of the richest guys in the UK, and he said, "Well, why are you teaching people that stuff?" I was like, "Well, why not?" He said, "Because that's how you're making the money." I said, "Yeah, but everybody can make money. I can teach everybody how to do it."
Yeah.
And he couldn't get his head around it because he was proper old school, nasty. And I was like, I've always been like, teach.
You know, we had a very close family friend of ours that was buying property, and he's like, you know, I got to cut back on my expenses and before I do this. I'm like, you know, just make more. Just make more. Yeah. It's just like, you know, whatever. It's just one of the things we need. You know, just don't even get that caught up on it like that. You know,
the lack mentality is so deep still.
Yeah,
it's so embedded, right? That people feel, you know, it's still that fear factor of, there's not enough. There's not going to be enough money, not enough water, not enough food, not enough people to watch you, not enough customers, that. There's more than enough of everything to go around this great big universe. We are living in a world, in a universe of abundance. It's just we've been living in a world, in a universe of lack, and that is just so false.
Well, you know, I was trying to explain to my kids the other day, because they were talking about petrol and electric cars. I said, well, firstly, electric cars have been around. The technology is over 100 years old. Secondly, electric cars are far less eco-friendly than petrol cars. They're like, really? And then I started explaining why. And I said, the other thing is petrol. I said, when I was your age, they told me there was only 5 years left of petrol. They've been pulling that trick off for so long. That's why they've had to change it, because they can't carry on with the lie, because it just keeps, everything is being created all the time. We are creation. We live in creation. But there's this incredible brainwashing that puts people in a place of lack is beyond belief. And I think you're doing a fantastic job of education, empowerment, all of this stuff. And long may you can continue. And everybody watching this, the links to April and Jay stuff is all below here. We're out of time, but it's been fantastic switching the tables on. It's actually a lot easier interviewing than being interviewed, I think.
It is, man. It's a stressful back here. It's like, oh man.
I made it.
Damn it. Don't do that to her.
This guy, I can just let you talk. Yeah, there's two of us. Double easy.
Hey man, thank you, and thank you to your audience for getting to hear us today. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
That's a great pleasure. Take care. I'll see you in Florida one day. If not, I'll see you soon online.
Absolutely. Much love.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.